didn't want to dwell on it. I didn't want to think about it at all. But I knew that if I didn't now, nothing would change. And I'd still be afraid of what I would do to people. Only one man I killed I actually knew would have hurt me. But the others? They were at my place, in my bed, on my turf, and she had killed them without provocation or remorse. I had no clue why, but she knew there was something inside of her too that caused her to murder in cold blood. From the time I was a little girl, I could remember what it was that my mother and father were able to tell me before they died. They informed me that it was a curse. What was that what Hyde had meant by damned? The only questions after that were how and why, for how long, and how did I stop it? Furthermore, when did it all begin, and where? What could I do to find the answers? The only person that seemed to know anything about this at all was Sarah. But how did she know? It could have been just the visions. I didn't believe that they gave her that much information. She knew something and was at the forefront of something even bigger than I could fathom. If I hadn't been living it, I wouldn't have believed that someone else could truly live inside someone and take control whenever they wanted at a whim. Not only that, but as only a child. Was I the owner of this curse because of that? Would it have happened regardless if I had a sibling? Could men possess it? So many questions racked my brain that I couldn't sit still. I tried to sit and watch some television, catching up on whatever was on my apps, but there was nothing that could soothe my already rampant thoughts. I paced back and forth across the living room floor, the wood cool on my feet as I nibbled on a piece of chocolate that was flavoured like strawberry cheesecake. Lint and springly, a way of making some of my favourite chocolates, and I thought it would help my anxiety like usual. It was proving not to be the case. The only soothing piece of information I had was at least I didn't have to try to hide anything. Hyde took care of all of that, and I shivered as I thought of what she could have possibly done with the remains. I knew where the hearts were, and took a glance toward the kitchen. The hearts were now just a frozen mass of muscle in the freezer, not unlike a roast or ground hamburger. My stomach growled, but I chose to ignore it. At this point, there was no way I was feasting on that. I had a tendency to cook them, which apparently wasn't what she wanted. I found out the hard way when I came to feasting on a raw heart fresh out of Cole's body. I shivered again, but it wasn't from the air conditioning, but from something far more primal. I popped the rest of the candy in my mouth and chewed. The taste of strawberry and tiny bits of cheesecake filled my mouth as I continued to pace. I had to stop. This wasn't getting me anywhere fast. Dax and Cole's words were like a broken record in my head. Do it. As the scalpel was placed firmly in my hand. I had only known to do what came natural to me, but it seemed to be more of what came natural to Hyde, and it was a level of kink that I had never witnessed before. If I hadn't liked it, I would have vomited all over Dax's marred perfection. It had been Hyde that loved it. Or was it both of us? Dax also told me to choose Carl before I slit my throat, but what did he want me to choose? If only I knew. I would really need to dissect the dream to really be able to answer that question, which I was sure was going to open a whole other can of worms. I wasn't prepared to deal with. We would have to take this step at a time. None of these words meant anything to me. I wanted to scream and cry in frustration, but knew that would get me nowhere either. My stomach growled again, and hunger hit me, hard and unrelenting. I stopped pacing and started the path to the kitchen, biting my thumbnail and questioning whether I really wanted to give in or not. The same old question popped up then. What should she do if I didn't? Did I really want to find out? I shook my head and dropped it in shame, making my way to the kitchen like a scalded child who was told that they were going to eat their broccoli or go to bed without dinner. I'd be getting dinner all right, just nothing I actually wanted. Once I got to the fridge, my hand hovered over the handle to the freezer. The rest of my body frozen in place again after so many times in one night. I had no control over it as my hand clamped around it and pulled the door open. Plucking a Ziploc bag from within the cold chasm of the freezer, I moved to the microwave. There was no way to sugarcoat this. The only way to get her to leave me alone for even just a little while was going to be stick this in and hit defrost. Too bad it wasn't still covered in blood and beating erratically, huh? I had the bag in my hand and stood in front of it, staring at the plastic and metal box, wondering if this was something I really wanted to do, knowing that she would make me regardless of my feelings about it. Before she started to do it herself, I opened the door and placed the bag inside, pressing the button as quickly as possible before I changed my mind. There was a whirring sound as I watched the bag spin on the glass plate inside. Burning anxiety rose in my throat, but I swallowed it down. I'd never willingly eaten the heart raw before in any capacity, so I still wasn't sure about it in the slightest. Not only that, but I felt like I was being pushed into it just because I didn't want her to be able to take control over me again. I'd had enough control over our shared body for a while to suit me just fine. Something about this situation had to change. I just wasn't sure what. I turned and eyed the clock on the stove. It read 4 in the morning. I'd been lit in the living room, marching back and forth like that for an hour. I hadn't even realised that much time went by. No sleep could be gotten by me tonight. The few hours I did get, after crawling into bed without remembering to do so, would be all I was getting as far as Hyde was concerned. From now on, from what I knew about her already in the years we'd been together, she didn't very much care at all. That was the nature of our relationship. We may have shared the same body, but only one of us could have control at any one time. Which was a mixed blessing. I got the peace of mind that I hadn't actually done anything wrong, but also knew that even if that wasn't the case, my hands were still the ones doing it, and that I would take the fall for it if it ever came to that. I shook all thoughts from my head, went back to watching the heart slowly spin, defrosting back to its raw form, just so I could make her happy. My stomach growled again and turned all at the same time. The iron smell of whatever blood was left in the muscle permeating the air as I stood there, transfixed. It wasn't me who was mesmerised by it. It was Hyde. My body was reacting as she moved through it, just waiting underneath the surface for the beeping sound. I wasn't as giddy about it as she was. I could practically feel her humming inside me, buzzing like a tiny bee that had been pissed off and was now stuck in a jar hitting the glass. As I cleared my throat, I crossed my arms over my chest, waiting impatiently and trying not to watch the green numbers tick by in the darkness. I hadn't even bothered to turn any lights on since I'd been up trying so hard to focus on the television in my living room that the need for it never occurred to me. The microwave's dim ambience, the only real light I needed anyway. The beeping sound startled me, causing me to nearly jump. I'd completely zoned out, and the minutes it took to thaw out the heart of the man whose name I didn't remember, went by a lot faster once I stopped watching it. Would it be morbid to start writing their names on the plastic baggies? This time, I knew it was me in control of the shudder I had felt all over from the thought of me with the Sharpie and the bags before freezing them. I pushed the thought away. It didn't seem something I would think about as long as I was myself. But I wasn't really, was I? No. I was a mixture of two people. One that was successful and a law-abiding citizen. One that was a murderer, cold and yielding in how she killed. She didn't forgive, and she damn well didn't forget. My hand jutted out to the microwave door with greedy fingers, and I began to fade to the background, only able to see and feel, but that was the extent of it. My hands removed the bag, and the sane part of me wanted to gag, but it was swallowed down by the part of my soul that only saw it as a delicacy. Why did she even need it? There had to be a reason. If she actually heard me speak, she answered, and I felt my lips move with her words. It's part of who we are, Blythe. You might as well get used to it. She paused, holding the raw and warm heart in her hand. Thank goodness it didn't beat. Her breathing was heavy as I listened, trying with everything I had to squeeze my eyes shut, but nothing happened. Because I'm not going anywhere. No matter how hard you fight me, I'm a part of you. She let a deep breath out as she held the heart up in front of my face so I could see it clearly. Heart and soul. As she moved it closer to my waiting mouth, she added, and I'm going to show you a little something that'll tell you exactly why you need me. The heart met my lips and my teeth bit into it, my jaw moving with the tension that I knew had to be causing in some way. I just wasn't sure how, since I couldn't even shut my eyes against what I saw. There was a burst of metallic warmth in my mouth that rolled over my tongue and down my throat. My vocal cords vibrated as she groaned in delight. That was when images began to flash across my mind like a slideshow. I saw Kyle. I saw the bartender. The bartender with the kind eyes and the full mouth, who knew how to mix a cosmopolitan just right. Just right indeed. I had noticed things that I had not, and now she was showing me. I watched with rapt fascination as her eyes met across the bar when I tossed the drink back without a second thought. That was all I needed to see, to know that Kyle and the bartender were working together. But why? Was it just to drug innocent and unsuspecting women for date rape? Or was there more to it than that? There was only one way to know. Hyde finished her gory meal and we made our way into the bathroom and stalked to the sink. Almost in a drunken stupor, it ran through our system, replenishing and flooding each cell as we moved. With bloody hands we turned on the water, covering the clean copper in congealed blood from being microwaved. I watched my hands splash the water over my face, rinsing the ick away but leaving a little bit of residue that would need to be scrubbed. She stood and looked into the mirror above the sink. We both knew what had been done. Rivulets of blood water ran down my chin. My eyes flashed between the amber brown and emerald green, settling on the green as I relinquished my body to her for just one purpose. She walked out of the bathroom and walked to the door to the killing room, opening the door and turning on the overhead light. It shone off the bright metal of the table, making the red of the walls look even more sinister than it had before. Leaning against the door jamb, she crossed her arms and grinned with salacious intent. "Oh, this is going to be fun," she said with my voice tight and joyful. The words drifted off into ominous laughter as a plan began to form. And boy, was she right. This would be exciting indeed.